according to her. I mean, I missed a lot.
Yeah.
We missed out a lot. Everybody, just if you haven't put it together already, Jay Gulinello is here tonight.
No way.
What's going on, Jay?
Hey, Frank.
Jeremiah is here.
No, sorry.
Okay, Justin. All right, Justin. Well, anyway, we're going to be doing about 2 hours of various topics, media clips and calls, and then we're going to fire up a second stream at about 9 o'clock, about 8:55, because that's when the debates begin. The debate begins, I should say. And just like we did in fact, the last time you've been in the studio was the dementia debate.
It was. Is that what it's? The
to
term
me,
is that?
To me,
the
it
dementia
is.
debate. Yeah, the beginning of the end for Joe Biden and his family. Yeah, I know. It seems like normally there's more in between, but yeah, I was thinking of it too. I think so. What, June 27th? I think was the date.
Nuts, man.
Yeah, the whole summer went by.
That's really the last.
How was yours? It's good.
It was a very memorable summer.
Good.
And there was a couple of beach days. We didn't go too far.
Yeah.
But it was just, we just had a lot of fun as a family, and just even in just the yard, and it was sprinklers, and the sun was hot, and we killed dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of lantern flies. I've turned Aurora into like Rambo. She's like, Stop.
You guys have a fair amount of fireflies in your area too, which is kind of cool.
Around, in June especially, it gets like you're like in a magic forest.
Yeah.
Around 8:25 p.m., it's like magic hour.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really wonderful.
But yeah, that was it. June was the last time I was here.
Yeah, well, that's crazy how things just fly by.
I know.
Because now it's 1/3 of September is gone. Your retreat is in 2 weeks. 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, you're right. Just a little over 2. It'll be 2 weeks from Thursday. Jeez. Now I'm scared.
I'm scared. I'm scared.
You should be.
I seriously don't. I don't want to do the plunge again.
You've regressed? I thought we had that solved.
No, I've regressed.
Okay, well.
You know what it is? Because it's one thing to be like, okay, it's a hot summer day, and there's a nice tub of ice, and I'm going to slip into this thing and whatever. But now I just remember that it's already cold outside of the water, and I don't want to do it.
Well, this weekend's going to be back in the 80s. So you never know what it's going to be like in 2 weekends.
Okay.
The first time we were at Martha's Vineyard, we had a great weekend in the 70s, mid-70s, I think. It was gorgeous.
I can't wait for Lauren to have her first breakfast consisting completely of bull testicles.
Yes, everyone's very excited for that.
Anyway, so that's it. It's debate night, and we're going to have some fun here. We have a lot of great stuff because I already wanted to talk to you, Jay. You and I had a wonderful conversation about RFK and a possible Trump team up. It felt like really early on this year.
Yeah.
Right around the time that he said, no, there's not going to be a Kennedy vice presidential nomination for myself, blah, blah, blah. But, things happen. And, man, the necessity that was created.
Well, things happen. Last time we were here, we were discussing the election of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. That's not even a thing anymore.
I know.
So things definitely happen. And I agree. I was rooting for the connection between Trump and Kennedy for a variety of reasons. I thought there were a lot of areas where they were similar, even though there are clear differences between the two. But I also thought that it could bring more, it's funny that they're calling it the unity ticket, but I think it's more that a lot of these things that they're tackling together are universal things like health, right? That we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah,
it's really universal for everybody. And there's such a clear difference because as RFK said, he reached out to both camps and the Harris campaign didn't even return his call. So if you needed to know any more about the political realignment that we were talking about, Trump is not really a Republican. The Republican establishment hates him. The Bushes hate him. And the Democrat Party clearly hates RFK. So what you have is some strange, I think you've said this before, almost like the emergence of a third party. They happen to be carrying the name Republican and Democrat, although I know RFK was running as an independent. But to me, this is the emergence of something unique. And I think that's why most people are excited about it, because it really could be the formation of something new that we've all wanted in this country, something separate from the Democrats and separate from the Republicans.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and we're going to get into it deep tonight because it's going to be great, especially the Make America Healthy Again stuff, the bulleted points that was just published in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
That's interesting stuff, but I want to talk about the whole idea in the second half. There is this tweet about Trump admitting to his failure to drain the swamp and asking for RFK's help in doing that. So I want to talk a little swamp drainage with people.
Sure.
We'll open up the lines. There's just a lot of good stuff going. Oh, here's one thing I wanted to show you. Since we're just in the grab bag at this point, there's a band on Twitter. No, a band on Instagram. I think they're called Smalltown Titans. I just found them the other night because Lauren sent this to me. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they have a bit as a band called Will It Riff. And they went and they grabbed products off of the the shelf at CVS or something like that. And they go and they translate the UPC code into guitar tablature. So they take
what an interesting idea.
They take the number on the barcode and they translate it into guitar tablature. Okay, to see if it makes a good riff. Now there's plenty of good examples on this. They're called Smalltown Titans, but there's plenty of good examples. But this one is awesome.
Okay,
and this is the UPC code translated into guitar of Tampax. Okay, we're talking about tampons.
Right.
All right. Now here, listen. Here it is right here. This is the barcode numbers of tampons, Tampax tampons. Will it riff?
Will it riff? Tampax.
It's fucking
You know what it
awesome.
sounds like?
Dude, that is so fucking heavy.
That reminded me of
awesome.
Alice in Chains before the guy started singing a little bit. Wow.
I
That
love,
is fun.
They got great guitar tone, first of all.
Wow.
But that is heavy. I love it, and it's just it's a great riff. It really is. One of the top comments says, "Soak it up, folks." That's a bloody good riff. That's a bloody good riff right there. So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
thank you for introducing that to me.
Smalltown Titans, and Lauren sent it to me.
Well, thank you, Lauren.
And it's just so clever for them to.
It is.
Who the hell came up with that? Hey, let's see what the numbers on the barcode translate to on the neck of the guitar.
As a musician, you get that creative block sometimes. What a great way to alleviate that. You just kind of force yourself into something that is sort of laid out there for you.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, they do many others, and I have to go digging through them a little bit. Actually, maybe I can get them on the show. Who knows? Nothing's out of the ordinary here.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, here's another one for you, Jay. And I just got to I got to ask the question. They have this thing from the Mirror, headline in the Mirror. What type of cancer Princess Kate has won't be revealed by Kensington Palace. It's not only that, but Bruce Springsteen's wife has it. I know just because it's a celebrity. We're pulling from the celebrity pool. It's a small sample, but I tend to extrapolate with small samples, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on? Like, I feel like everybody's battling cancer right now, dude.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, again, we hadn't talked prior, but I was going through an article from the Gateway Pundit from January of this year that said that the headline is cancer cases expected to hit record high in 2024. What changed? And of course, people like you and I think, and anytime I see something change on a population level in such a dramatic way, you have to ask the question, was something new introduced into the population? And in this case, because, we've talked about cancer quite a bit. I truly believe that for the most part, cancer is a metabolic disease. But we haven't introduced, as far as I know, any new pesticides or any new food products into the food supply that haven't been doing damage over the past 50 years. So what has changed between, I don't know, let's say the end of 2021, 2022, 2023? I think we all know the answer to that question. And, I don't mean to beat around the bush, but I know you just got back on YouTube.
I know.
But you have to kind of question this and you're not doing your job as a public health official or as a scientist if you don't at least ask the question. Like if you're afraid to ask a question, well, guess what? You're never going to get the answer.
I know. It's just, it gets me because obviously I have all the same assumptions naturally.
Yeah. Or questions.
Yeah. But, there's even a difference to me between Bruce Springsteen and that celebrity, that boomer celebrity left-wing group who, they're just like, when's the next one, Doc? And they'll just, I assume that most of them are going out there and taking whatever's prescribed.
Well,
but when it comes to royals, when it comes to like, you know, because it's not just Kate. I know she married in, but I mean, think of you know, Charles right now. I mean, there's nothing but rumors about him being in absolute failing health, and it's just crazy.
And you know, it could be a coincidence. Those people, you know, Charles being the age that he is, you know, I mean, even if he took a saline solution, you know, instead of the real deal, he could just have that level of failing health anyway. But I know what you're saying. I mean, it would seem obvious that if people knew what was going on, then they wouldn't jump on the jibby jab train.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then, you know, we talked a little bit about this offline. Elle Macpherson was diagnosed with cancer, and I was reading all this backlash about her and how, you know,
I saw some of this
conspiracy theory and all this stuff. First of all, she sought opinions of multiple practitioners, you know, of the standard allopathic approach, like chemotherapy, which is really the only answer they have, and holistic, more natural approaches. And she chose the natural approach, and she's now in remission. And people are still pissed off at her. And I couldn't help but think the cancer industry has driven people so far to one side, despite the fact that they fail constantly. I've told you the stats on chemotherapy. It's an abysmal failure. But they've driven people so far in one direction that now people are jumping after a cancer patient who successfully put her cancer into remission with an alternative therapy. Alternative to the what? To the therapy that doesn't really work? It's amazing how people are now angry, and they're actually fighting almost against their own best interest.
Yeah.
It was just, that story was remarkable to me, the backlash that she suffered despite going through rigorous process to determine her course of therapy, and it worked. It's
almost as, and I know it's sick to even put this into this kind of these terms, but it's just what it is, at least subconsciously. It's almost, whenever you have cases like Elle Macpherson or anybody that says, I'm just not going to do this. I'm not going to do it to myself. I'm not going to go through all that suffering. I'm going to try something else. And they, because I know, God knows how many people have been successful and just shut up about it. But her coming forward and getting that kind of backlash, it's all, you almost feel like the people who are mad feel like she cut in line.
Yeah, because what? Because they're too afraid to think for themselves or to explore other options. Like she doesn't deserve to get better, kind of thing.
Or like the suffering is, or like dues paid and she didn't pay him.
Yeah.
This is just something that happened to feel to me, and it's just across the board. I don't know that. I don't know if I feel like that way.
Well, we've normalized a lot of disease, Frank, and you know, cancer is the #2 killer in the U.S. So I mean, it's incredibly normalized. Just like we've normalized heart disease. Well, that's what happens, or type 2 diabetes. Well, that's what happens when you get older. No, it's not. And I promise you, chemotherapy, everybody knows, is the nuclear bomb approach. It's hardly, you know, like a rigorous scientific pathway that you can explain of how it works. It destroys everything it touches, right? But when you look at cancer as a metabolic therapy, and I talk about Thomas Seyfried on this show all the time, he has a specific reason why he's doing everything that he's doing in order to starve the cancer cell of fuel. So in my opinion, the metabolic approach is far more scientific than the nuclear bomb approach. So the irony is that those people are angry and saying that she's, you know, some kind of conspiracy theorist, when actually she is following the science. But when did we see that? You know, during COVID, right? Follow the science. The people screaming "follow the science" the loudest were the people who were not following the science at all.
And again, it should just be said that it's not even the fact that chemo is an option for people, that it's out there.
Yeah.
And it's just all about what are your options.
Yeah.
And you know, and you talk to any Western, I've seen plenty of interviews with them, and even in the comments or on their own YouTube channels, and they'll give some credence to alternative therapies, but they all conclude that they're generally ineffective and you know, compared to all the allopathic ways of going. And if it wasn't just such a bully fest, then at least people can have a little. It's scary enough to be in that situation, and you just at least want to. I don't know, to be bullied all along the way. On top of it, it's especially when you see some success.
Yes, well, and Frank, you know, I'm a slave to the scoreboard, as they say in sports. And if heart disease and cancer are the #1 and 2 killer, you're not doing a very good job, Western medicine.
Yeah,
you're not.
All right, let's kick this one off. When we come back, I have a few things I'd like to just to throw out there before we start getting to the RFK Make America Healthy Again stuff, which is going to be great, especially because who knows how it's going to pop up in a debate tonight.
God, I hope it does.
Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, there are some very, very timely and scathing indictments that RFK, that Bobby Jr. threw out there just the day after that DNC circus wrapped up. They had that big, shadow puppet show over there in Chicago, Joy, Happy, and Joy. and then the next day there is RFK saying, hey, this is why me, one of the last viable representatives of an American dynasty family, is running from the Democrat Party. Just the institution itself. What is it? I don't know. It's a zombie party.
Oh yeah.
And I'm it's just
propped up by the likes of Al Sharpton screaming at you to have joy. Joy, joy. That was his whole thing, demanding that you feel joy. That's what the Democrat Party has become.
I heard that everybody, as they left the arena that night, everybody got one slap in the face.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah.
Just one slap in the face
one?
each. There you go. Bam. That's
joy.
It. Just get the spirit back into them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. We got a lot of fun stuff to do tonight, and I hope you're with us throughout it all.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
This reminds me of Scream.
Oh, yeah.
It was on the soundtrack of Scream.
Yeah.
Actually, was the reason why I put this in today, it was fresh in my mind. Jonas, we were driving. I was driving around town with Aurora. I put Aurora in the car today. I said, "You want to come with Daddy to go do some?" I had to go buy my steak and all that stuff from the deli. She said, "Yeah." So she's in the car with me, and she says, "Can you put on Halloween music? Because I have this autumn playlist."
Got it.
That I just released in the newsletter, which thank you so much for the submission.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Definitely need more from Jay Gulinello in the future. That was a wonderful addition to the September, quite frankly, bulletin. But so I've been playing this just to set the mood. It's September now, and I said, okay. So I just put on the playlist, and then I heard her little voice in the background. I said, "What's that?" And she said, "Can you put on Red Right Hand?" I said, "What?" I said, Nick Cave? Are you know the name of that song?
Oh man!
I guess she just listens to the lyrics and she likes
yeah.
At 3 years old, she already likes Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Pretty good.
Jeez Louise, she's a funky one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's a little example of something I wanted to throw out there. We're talking about what the Democrat Party was, RFK, political realignments. Take a listen to this. This is what I remember a liberal sounding like in the 90s, okay? I found this on Instagram. I thought it'd be a wonderful conversation setter on a night like tonight. Hold on. My bad. Came in a little bit low. Let me make sure it's high. There we go.
So we're asking the question today, should vaccines be mandated?
In terms of getting people healthy, let's get them outside. And vitamin D, let's mandate.
Now look at her.
Wow.
Now look at her. Again, this is what I'm saying. Judging a book by its cover. I was just Listen to this.
Healthy fisheries, so we all get healthy vitamin D sources. Let's mandate organic foods. Let's mandate regenerative farms. Let's change the subsidies from McDonald's and all these GMOs to organic farms and these beautiful small companies we see here. There's so much more to health that we can mandate that other than injecting something that is completely experimental, and there's so many alternatives, and there's so much money involved.
Right.
And so granted, the people have to rise because money will move, unless we move.
Yeah,
I mean, look, not to nitpick, obviously, I don't want to mandate anything, but what an accurate assessment of the current state of affairs right now. Congratulations. I'm impressed.
I am too. And
I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah. Here's another one for you. Now, I've got this to lead into the next one. This is just a few things I've come across over the last couple of weeks. I said, oh, all right, Jay. As you know, it's September, Jay, so that means that we are now officially flung headfirst, neck deep into pumpkin spice everything. Okay? Pumpkin spice everything. Well, this guy, and it is insane. Wall Street Ape says, I can't even describe how insane this is. You just have to watch it. This guy is going through the ingredients of the brand new pumpkin swirl frozen coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. And it's it really is incredible. I know we how many years ago? 10 years ago or so now, we had Bloomberg trying to ban sugary drinks.
Right,
and
right.
It's just, I don't want anything banned.
Nope.
I want people to be educated.
Yes.
But this almost seems like it should be illegal. this drink should probably be illegal. Listen to this.
Friends, this is a pumpkin swirl frozen coffee. Who the thought it was a good idea to put this on the menu? Because this drink has 185 grams of sugar in here. How much is it? It's this much. It's 46 teaspoons of sugar. To give you another perspective, the amount of sugar in there is equal to 14 glazed donuts. Plus, there's no pumpkin in here. It's artificial flavors. There's 12 mentions of sugar and high fructose corn syrup in here. There's 930 calories and 194 carbs. 2/3 of us are already type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic. If America runs on this, we're
I mean, dude.
So what is he, 46 teaspoons of sugar? So just for reference, at any given time, the blood has roughly 4 teaspoons of glucose, right? And it needs to tightly manage that. So you are sending almost 10 times the amount of sugar into the bloodstream. So that's not even counting whatever else was in there. I was actually trying to find it on the Dunkin' Donuts website.
You're declaring war on your body when you do that.
Are. Yeah.
I mean, you think about the chaos.
Yeah.
With the body that has to regulate itself when you dump that much more into it, when it tries to keep 4 grams readily available, would you 4 teaspoons readily available?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, and he was right. I mean, he's talking about diabetes, and that's a correct diagnosis of what diabetes is. It's a glucose disposal issue, and what is going to create a glucose disposal issue? Well, that would be intaking more glucose than your body can dispose, either utilize or store. So, I mean, it's a really simple equation once you understand physiology. And, I mean, look, I'm sure, actually, I shouldn't even say that. It probably doesn't taste good. That much sugar, to me, probably would be overly sweet. But what does that tell you about people who consume that kind of food and don't think that it's sweet? Think about how much their palate has been hijacked by ultra-processed foods. That's incredible.
I know.
It's amazing. I was trying to find it on the, like I said, on the Dunkin' Donuts website, but I haven't been able to come across it because I wanted to give you some other stats, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, well, here
you probably took it off.
Well, while you do that, I came across this other one. The caption that came with these next couple of slides is, "Oh, it's okay. I drank that. I ate that when I was little." And the whole point is, no, you didn't.
Right.
Take a look at this. So here is the side by side: Gatorade then, water, sugar, salt, potassium, and lemon juice. Gatorade now, and it's just.
And it, most likely, especially the original Gatorade formula, most people didn't like it because it didn't taste like the sweet drink that Gatorade tastes like today.
And there's McDonald's fries,
wow,
hand-cut russet potatoes, beef tallow, and salt. I've used, as you've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
McDonald's fries now. If you need a second page. Here we go. Peanut butter then. Peanuts, salt, and sugar. This is one of the best things that happened to us, finding really good peanut butter.
Because there is real peanut butter out there just like that.
Yeah. And now there you have it. All the cottonseed, soybean, and rapeseed oil, all the vegetable oils in that. And there's one last one over here. Bread then, the enriched wheat, flour, water, yeast, salt, milk, butter, and then boom.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I haven't had a slice of Wonder Bread in what feels like 25 years anyway, so...
Yeah, I mean, in real bread, I mean, it's debatable. I mean, I talk about this a lot. You know, bread in general isn't the same as what it used to be. But I think in that interview that Casey and Kelly Means did with Tucker Carlson, you know, a lot of the things they said were true. It's not necessarily the food, it's what we've done to the food. Although modern bread, I would maybe put in a slightly different category because traditional bread is very, very different. Like your sprouted sourdough bread is very different than even a Wonder Bread from the 50s. It's just a different animal. But it's amazing when you look at that stuff, man, and you wonder why we're as sick as we are.
And that's why I think it's been talking about all of the disparity or the discrepancy between votes, you know, and the polling. How much is Trump pulling? How much is the other one pulling? How much are any of these numbers real? What is it setting us up for? And then, of course, how much does the RFK factor come in to eliminate all those disparities?
Right.
The whole numerical aspect of the polls is secondary to what his contribution to the platform is. Yeah. Because you and I, we were sitting here, we were reading through. It might have been like some of those late winter episodes that we did together, going through all of his ideas about making physical fitness, and even hearkening back to his uncle's administration.
Absolutely.
And just how this is important. If we ever want to compete on the world stage again, how chronic disease and physical fitness and our youth, the shape that our youth are in, that this is one of the greatest undiagnosed national security risks that we have. And I just love that has become that has been injected more prominently into the platform. That's not spoken about as nearly as much as the numerical value of an RFK partnership right now. Yeah,
and you know, I was saying to you this before. I'm not claiming credit for this, but I was thinking about this a lot before we were doing. As I was prepping for the show, I was like, make America healthy again. I swear that I have used that term before in the last 4 to 5 years.
Oh, I got it. Here it is.
So this. I wrote this on, what's the date? November 6th, right?
2020.
2020. Almost 4 years ago. And I went through, now I was bitching about COVID in this, but I was also talking about nutrition and how I was laying out a lot of what RFK has laid out in this Wall Street Journal article. So it was really fun to see this again. And it makes me think also that, not me specifically, but RFK and Trump, if they really want to make this happen, they need to enlist the help of people like me, people who think of health in this sort of multi-pronged approach that has nutrition at the core. And I'm so impressed by what RFK wrote in this Wall Street Journal article. And if Trump is sincere, which I have no reason to think he's not, in bringing RFK on to do this could be a tipping point in a positive way for society that we won't even necessarily, and Trump may not even necessarily reap the rewards from for another 10 to 20 years. Trump may be gone by the time America really is healthy again. But he lays out everything in this piece exactly how I would do it. I almost didn't have anything else to add. I did this episode over the weekend with Daryl on our show, and it's not going to come out for another couple of weeks, but both of us were impressed by this list. I thought it was just really well written and well thought out.
Well, we're going to get to that list in just a second, because here's another example of people that are now starting to really see how this is a wonderful opportunity in a real way. Like you say, okay, can you really, what's the goal here? Are we going to try to exercise the legion of demons that call Washington, D.C. home and all that stuff? Or are we going to really start reprioritizing the most basic things that human beings need? Yeah. Number one, when I talk about decentralizing decision-making and getting down to localized decision-making, that is community, that's community connectivity. There's a lot more, getting involved in local politics, whatever the hell it is, just understanding what's going on locally. But there's also local farming, taking healthcare into a lot more like just getting debt free and getting healthy, so that you don't need the rotting system to help you anymore.
Yeah.
Those are huge things, and I see this as if there's any reason, aside from the fact that the objectively worse outcome is Kamala Harris. The objectively worse outcome, okay? How much better it can or will be other than her is yet to be seen, but it's not going to be as bad.
Right.
Whatever the hell. The fact that there is a modicum, there's a sliver of a chance that this is really going to be any kind of a prominent aspect of a Trump administration with RFK in there and really trying to get these initiatives in place locally to get people healthy again. I mean, without health, there's absolutely nothing. I mean, even, between health and free speech, what the hell does it matter?
I know.
You can't do anything substantial in your life if you're just trying to stay alive every day.
No, absolutely not. And in that article, I wrote that the NIH spends $41.7 billion with a B annually on, quote, medical research for the American people. Yet look how unhealthy we are because the paradigm is wrong. And so I think you're absolutely right. We need the bottom-up approach. But my assertion is that we are so broken as a system and so far away from what, we talk about this all the time, about what the United States was supposed to be and how it was supposed to function in a federal government that's completely out of control, that we do need now the assistance of a top-down approach. So if we had the help from the federal government, even if it's just getting out of the way, that would be incredibly advantageous because then you can start with education, educating kids on nutrition in their body, giving them a handbook for the human body, right? And again, it's very simple stuff like that woman was saying. Get outside, organic food, get some sunshine, eat real food, move, some very simple things. Get proper sleep, stress management. But then you also, again, you do need now at this point, the federal government, if nothing else, to cut off some of its own limbs, its own tentacles that have gotten way too invested in, what we do on an individual level. For example, the war on the Amish farm. How, if the state government and the USDA are trying to prevent an Amish farm from servicing the people, then it doesn't matter how much we learn from a local level. We're never going to be able to get out of the way of that machine. So I just think we're in a place where we need this bottom-up and top-down approach in order to fix the problem.
They, rolling the dice for a chance at a chance.
Yeah.
That's all it is at this point. I mean, other than that, we have to do what we got to do as individuals, and we will continue doing that. But here's another one from Wall Street Apes. It says, we need to elect Donald Trump so RFK can stop this. Chick-fil-A. Now, Chick-fil-A just came up on the show last night with Jeremy Ryan Slate. He's talking about how he really likes this one chicken sandwich or something. I said, I never had it before. I'd be willing to, make it. When it comes to fast food to me, it is literally, we're on like a 10-hour road trip. We have been on the, what's on this menu that is passable? Is there a chicken wrap in there that I can just take the chicken out, even if it's just grade E meat? I don't know.
I'll tell you right now, though, so this is where the power of fasting is incredible because it gives you control on the road. But I get what you're saying. Beef, ruminant animals is the best. If you're going to eat commercial, that's the best version of a commercial meat you can get. So in other words, if you have to stop at McDonald's and just get the burger patty, that's the way to go. Just because chicken and pork, I won't go into it. This is just a whole other litany of issues that could be with those animals. But even conventionally raised beef, of all the animal protein sources, that's going to be the best one for you on the road. But it scares me what you're about to say about Chick-fil-A.
Okay, so then that works out perfectly. So he says this, Chick-fil-A, just the 2 food items, contains over 265 ingredients. No 2 foods should contain that many ingredients. Food contains anti-foaming agent from silicone. This is why I never, here's a quote, this is why I never eat from Chick-fil-A. I ordered a spicy chicken deluxe and a small mac and cheese. There's really not much to this. Combined with both of these food items, they contain over 265 ingredients. No 2 foods should contain that many ingredients. What are the ingredients there that I've never even heard of? It's called, can you say that?
I can't.
Dimethylpolysiloxane?
Probably not.
Dimethylpolysiloxane.
Oh, dimethyl.
Dimethylpolysiloxane?
Dimethyl, yeah.
Okay. This is a food additive that is used as an anti-foaming agent from silicone. Oh, well, isn't that what they were talking about with McDonald's back in the day, that there was a food additive in there that was essentially yoga mats?
I believe you're right.
Yeah.
I believe you're right. Yep.
It's also found in industrial lubrication and cosmetics. There's also dough conditioners there. Obviously in the bun, like datum and diglycerides.
Oh, diglyceride. Yeah.
Diglycerides.
I just can't see it from here. That's the only reason I'm not helping you.
Which all the oil processing use soy oil, hydrogenated oil, which are trans fats. These, of course. So now. As bad as European politics are, we always compare as bad things over here. The Overton window is several clicks left over there. But all throughout the continent, there is far more reasonable agricultural guidelines. And
yeah. Why do you think that is? I mean, do you think it's because of the tradition of farming goes back way more than just a couple hundred years in Europe? I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting to me that you're right, because they do have a lot of things backwards, but there's a lot of things in the U.S. that we allow that just, I mean, I talked to you about seed oils and the sort of the, and those are the, some people think those are micro things, but I think those are macro things, because you're getting into the micro things. You're not even talking about food at that point. You're talking about a series of chemicals designed to hold a food type thing together.
Yeah.
That's really what you're talking about. And your body has no idea what to do with most of that stuff. So, like I said, I mean, stopping on the road, it's at your own peril. You'd be better off going to a gas station, finding like a clean jerky, maybe some hard-boiled eggs, and some cheese. That the only ingredient is cheese. Like that's that's one of the best things you can do on the road. That's something that I've done. You know, some hard-boiled eggs. You know, I mean, again, we're talking shades of quality here, but it's better than dimethyl triglycerides in your Chick-fil-A to keep it from foaming.
You know, one of the last times you were on, we were talking about, I think I brought up Famous Amos.
Oh yeah, we did the comparison.
And I said, okay, listen, take a look at all these ingredients in Famous Amos cookies. How would you make this cookie just as tasty, if not better, and with clean ingredients, and also control the price?
Yeah.
Especially for nationwide shipping and all that stuff, because I understand that maybe some companies go to these oils and things like that to be able to cut down on cost and all that. But even so, even if that is the case, when I look at the ingredients of McDonald's French fries from 1965, and then I see 3 pages worth of ingredients now in 2024, I wonder, like, do you really? You're putting so many more ingredients in there. How are you saving that money?
Yeah.
How do you save money when you have to put that much more into something? It's you'd think that basic would be cheaper, right?
Right. But my only thought on that is preservation.
Okay.
That allows the foods to stay longer.
Okay.
So that could be where the profit margin is, because you're right. There's no reason why something that has 3 ingredients should cost more than something that has a whole bunch of ingredients. But the answer is those other ingredients are also very cheap. Like the difference between coconut oil and soybean or canola oil is dramatic in terms of price. And I've seen brands start off with coconut oil to bring in the people like me who pay attention to that stuff. And then at some point in production, they
sunflower
screw
seed
over
oil.
to sunflower oil because it's cheaper, and and they want to increase their profit margin, but they destroy their product. But again, for the most part, right, you and I are talking in like somewhat of an echo chamber in terms of like most people don't understand that this really matters to their health, which is also why so many Americans are unhealthy. So that's where I think the educational component comes in. And yes, you may pay a little bit more. Like I think I gave you the option of that brand Simple Mills, which makes a chocolate chip cookie very similar to Amos Miller, very similar in taste, very similar in size. They choose to use whole ingredients, but they're certainly shelf stable and everything. But maybe, I wouldn't know this, but I'm assuming that their profit margin is probably less than Famous Amos. But what do you care, right? You may pay an extra couple of cents for a box of cookies, but all I care about is your health. So I will tell you straight up, the way the world is right now, healthier food does cost more. But I always say pay the farm now or pay the pharmacy later, because the total cost of health across the spectrum of your life, I think it evens out. In fact, I think eating healthy probably puts you ahead of the game.
Okay, well then let's get into RFK now, because this is now not even in an indirect way. This is directly attached to the Trump campaign and this election now.
Yeah.
Which is this is an important development for the future of our species. To be honest, it's not even just the next couple of years.
Well, I mean, look at infertility. Look at so I don't think it's being hyperbolic to say that this movement, political or not, whatever you think, this is a positive movement for America, and may lead to the propagation of the species rather than the other way around.
Yeah. So then here, I get this entire thing was written by Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
And it was submitted to the Wall Street Journal. It says, Trump can make America healthy again. In my speech endorsing Donald Trump, I said we need to love our kids more than we hate each other. That means coming together to address common problems, and few are more urgent than the chronic disease crisis. Americans are becoming sicker, beset by illnesses that our medical system isn't addressing effectively. These trends harm us, our economy, and our global standing. Among American teens, close to 30% are pre-diabetic. Damn.
It's crazy. When you see these things in black and white, it kind of changes the game, I think.
More than 18% of young adults have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. More than 40% of adults 22 to 44 are obese. More than 40%. That's the prime of your life, working, everything, living.
So the World Obesity Federation says by 2035, 51% of the world's population will be overweight or obese. Over half the world by 2035 on the current trajectory.
According to a 2023 study, okay, that's it. In 2020, 77% of young adults didn't qualify, we already know this, for military based on their health scores, forcing the military to lower its standards, which is the worst thing you can do if you're a military. 6 out of 10 adults in America are living with a chronic disease. 74% of Americans, adults, are overweight or obese. Rates of kidney disease and autoimmune conditions are going up. Cancer rates among young people are rising. This is despite Americans spending more and more to treat many of these conditions. U.S. life expectancy is markedly lower in every other developed country, with a wide disparities between income classes. This crisis is the product of broken incentives, and there's nothing more profitable for much of the healthcare system than a sick child. Now, do you want to start? Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah.
All this? Okay,
Yeah.
so then let's just get into it. Mr. Trump, I'll get you all lined up for the actual bulleted points here. Mr. Trump has made reforming broken institutions a cornerstone of his political life. He has become the voice of countless Americans who have been let down by our elites. He could unite the country by making it his priority to make America healthy again. Here are some specific policy ideas. Now, you take this however you like. It's what is it, 10, 12 points?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we can just pop through each of them and just talk about them a little bit. But the first one is reforming the Prescription Drug User Fee Act. And so people that don't realize this, and this is really educational for people, pharmaceutical companies pay a fee every time they apply for a new drug approval. And this money makes up about 75% of the budget of the Food and Drug Administration's drug division. And that creates a barrier to entry for smaller firms and puts bureaucrats' purse strings in the hands of the pharmaceutical industry. Now, people don't realize this was like 1992 that the Prescription Drug User Fee Act was put into place, and it's renewed every 5 years. So people ask, well, what else are we supposed to do? Well, I mean, I don't know. We did it just fine prior to 1992, and I would argue that our health was better prior to 1992. So maybe, I don't know, maybe a drug company paying the FDA to research their drug and market for approval isn't exactly a good idea. You know? I mean, it's not...
Oh, we've learned a lot about the drug approval process over the last 40 years.
Exactly.
And it's, I mean, you just look at how the rest of the world does things far more efficiently. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would love to see that most people would like to see is just more accountability to pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, you got to remove some of that liability shield. You've got to. I mean, if you make a product and it damages people, you must be able to be sued because that is the check on your quality control.
Yep, that's it. That's it. You can't just roll the dice because you figure we can make $750 billion before we have to pay out $200 million.
I tell this story. I've probably told it on your show. I tell it all the time because it's so outrageous when I first read it. But Bayer, the company Bayer, they made a drug in the 1980s. Forgive me if some of the details are wrong because I haven't looked at it in a while. But they made a drug in the 1980s for hemophiliacs. I think it was called Factor 8. I think. And they weren't supposed to do this, but they got some of the blood from inmates, from prisoners. And, prisoners can be drug users and they can have things in their blood that, a regular healthy person may not have. So anyway, their drug was tainted with HIV. This is in the 1980s. And so and they knew this. And so rather than dumping it, they literally did a back of the envelope calculation. Well, we can't sell it in America, but if we sold it to other countries in Africa and in Europe, if we get found out, we'll have to pay a fine, but we may make enough money where we actually still come out on top. Whereas if we dump the product, we lose outright.
Yeah.
So they literally put your life, my life, any other human being's life on the back of an envelope and just calculated it. And that's what happened. They got caught, they paid out, but it didn't matter because they didn't have to dump the drug and they actually probably made money in the end. But that's how you have to think of these. You have to understand these pharmaceutical companies. You are nothing but a number on a ledger sheet. Nothing else. Your life, your family, your memories, the things you love, the people you love, the people who love you, does not factor into the equation. And until people understand that ruthless world that we live in, because we don't think like that. Yeah. You and I couldn't do that to other human beings. These people, there's something not home with them.
I know. Listen, if you want to take on, obviously you can do whatever the hell you want, especially if you have a handshake with somebody. But if you want to take on a couple of local personal training clients, you've got to really consider where are you getting liability coverage.
Yeah.
You especially if you're going to be marketing yourself outside of your circles of friends and family who would not sue you if they twist an ankle or something like that.
Right.
And the fact that, people who are opening up local gyms have to go and make sure that they are just completely covered from for anything. And the liability shield on this, no way, man.
Yeah.
No way. That's got to go. Anyway, okay, keep going.
Yeah, so the next thing is something we've talked about a lot, basically prohibiting members of the Dietary Guidelines Committee from accepting money from food and drug companies. 95% of the members of the USDA panel that were charged with the most recent updating nutrition guidelines had conflicts of interest with food and or pharmaceutical companies. That's 19 of 20 members had food and or pharmaceutical company conflicts of interest. And this is from the same governing body that brought you a National Institutes of Health research finding that Lucky Charms are healthier than ground beef. That he's referencing the food compass there. So this is amazing, Frank. Like this collection of ideas is something that you and I have been talking about for the past 4 years. He's already talking about the dietary guidelines and the food compass and how we have to rearrange the incentive structure. So that's fantastic. People don't realize that. And just so you know, the 2025 guidelines are coming out in a few months. And the members there, they didn't do anything to increase transparency. In fact, if I would say they actually made it worse, they aggregated the conflicts of interest. So you don't actually even know what conflict goes with which member. So it's a lot harder to trace.
Okay.
So they want to review direct consumer pharmaceutical ad guidelines.
Okay.
People knew this, but the US and New Zealand are the only countries that allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise direct to the public. News channels are filled with drug commercials, and reasonable viewers may question whether their dependence on these ads influences their coverage of health issues. I certainly question that.
Now I'm a free market guy, essentially an absolutist, because any good idea should be able to win on its own merits.
Yes.
You have to be out there. You have to, like we were just saying with liability out there, you have one reputation. Take good care of it. All right. Once you start losing trust, you're going to have a really, really hard road to building it back with people. But if there is one thing I would say I would outright ban is pharmaceutical ads. There is no reason. There's no reason to advertise something that are mere tools for accredited doctors.
Right.
There's no, because the only people who need to know that they exist are the doctors who are going to prescribe them. The fact that you're having everyday Americans, watching the Golf Channel and having 10,000 drugs thrown in their faces so that they can go and ask their doctor about whether or not it's right for them. The doctor knows they exist.
Yes.
If you need the drugs, they'll know what to dip into. The fact that I have not seen Camel Joe anywhere in 20 years, but I know every fucking Sky Rizzy commercial.
I know.
Get it the fuck out of here, man.
I agree. And it's not free market because like you said, you can't go into the store and buy these on your own. And I actually think it's twisting the free market because again, you rely, unfortunately, well, you and I don't rely, but the vast majority of Americans rely on the news to deliver them the news, the unbiased, unfiltered news. Now, we know that's not the case anymore, but I mean, we saw this during COVID. If brought to you by Pfizer is covering, Anderson Cooper 360, do you think Anderson Cooper is going to be telling you the truth about the latest Pfizer therapeutic that's designed to help halt the global pandemic? Of course not. So it's no longer a free market. The thumb is on the scale in a dramatic way. So I completely agree with you. I feel the same way about the free market, but this does not feel like the free market to me.
No way. Especially since it's, it's very much like, because it's not even just the ads. It's attached to everything.
Yeah.
Every news broadcast is brought by it. It's it's idiocracy with the electrolytes. It's everything.
Do you even know what electrolytes are?
I know.
It's what plants crave.
That's what plants crave. It's in every water fountain.
It's true. It's true.
So let's keep going.
Okay.
Because we got 10 minutes till the break. I want to get a few more in.
We'll hustle through. Let me see if there's another good one. No, I want to see. Stop allowing beneficiaries of the SNAP program, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, to use their food stamps to buy soda or processed foods. 90% of all SNAP funding goes to sweetened drinks, according to 2011 data. It's nonsensical for U.S. taxpayers to spend tens of billions of dollars subsidizing junk that harms the health of low-income Americans. I couldn't agree more. And this is where I get into all kinds of trouble with the social justice dietitians out there who tell me I'm privileged and elitist and, whatever for coming down on, I'm not coming down on the lower income families. It's not their fault. It's our fault for subsidizing garbage food. What you're doing is you're okaying their plight in life. You're okaying their development of chronic disease. What I'm trying to do is both, again, this is going to take a top down and a bottom up approach, educate them on what better foods are and tell the government to stop subsidizing the processed food so they can actually afford the healthier foods. I'm trying to solve the problem. You're trying to perpetuate it.
Mm-hmm. And this is why I was really interested in reading this, because again, like we said before, this is no longer just a one man's stumping for his own third party run.
Right.
This is attached to a campaign that has a real chance of making some headway on it.
Yeah.
But also how this is such well thought. I would never even thought about this off the top of my head. The SNAP program and the EBT cards and all that other shit. Why not just make sure that you are limited in your choices of what you're buying? Because you couldn't even say, oh well, that's ableist or that is classist or something like that. It's like no. What we're saying is that you can't spend this money on things that are going to harm your health. You can spend this on dozen carts of eggs,
right.
Cartons of eggs.
But see, this is where the dietary guidelines need to be fixed, because they go like food for the military or food for hospitals, or in lunchrooms for children, they go by the dietary guidelines. So a lot of these foods are on there because they're low in cholesterol.
Like ramen.
Yeah, soda has no fat. Congratulations. But that's how crazy things have gotten, which is why I told you we need like a bi-directional approach to solve this problem. I completely agree with you.
I know. They use their EBT cards and they go film mukbang videos.
Yeah.
Just slurping down spicy noodles.
And they drop dead.
It's just crazy. Yeah. All right.
So the next one, revisit pesticides and other chemicals, chemical use standards. As of 2009, the U.S. allowed 72 pesticides that the European Union bans.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so we're talking about things like glyphosate. We need to get that out of the system. Glyphosate is a disaster. I'll argue with people all day long about its detrimental effects, but people say it's not harmful to humans because we don't possess the pathway that glyphosate targets. But I can tell you that everything in your microbiome does, and I can also tell you that glyphosate will impact you on a metabolic level. And so dietitians will tell you again that it's not harmful because the studies don't show that. Well, a lot of the studies aren't actually testing what its metabolic effects are. A lot of the studies are trying to basically explain away the fact that humans aren't harmed by glyphosate. That honestly, and a lot of the research has been done by companies that manufacture glyphosate, like Monsanto. So I am 100% on board. We need to get rid of glyphosate. We need to get rid of a lot of pesticides because that's just, one of the biggest ones. And just for your information, a paper in 2021 came out that said, because a lot of people will tell you the dose makes the poison. Well, this paper said that after 2014, there's no more reporting on how much glyphosate is used in this country. So we don't even know how much is being used anymore after 2014. So how's that for your dose makes the poison?
The last decade.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Just in the dark.
Because I was doing research on this for a podcast I was doing this person wanted to talk about glyphosate. And I found this paper because I kept looking for usage statistics. And then I found this 2001 paper that said, we have no more statistics after 2014. The US just doesn't report it anymore. And what does that tell you? Do you think they're not reporting it because they're using less of it? Of course not.
I didn't even know that.
I know. I didn't either. So.
I mean, and you know, this next point over here is even better. Because, of course, this comes into a little bit more of your line of work.
Ah, yes.
This is require nutrition classes and functional medicine in federally funded medical schools.
I love it.
That's not just for kids.
No.
You know, they're saying that we
teach
need
doctors too. Yeah.
You know, today, 7 out of 10 of the leading killers of Americans are chronic diseases that are preventable, sometimes through improved eating habits. Yet, about 80% of medical schools don't require a solitary course in nutrition.
I worked at a hospital. I asked this question at almost every intake, and no doctors received education in nutrition. And some of them said, I might have had a lecture. They couldn't even remember it, right? So, and I've told this story again before, where when I was in grad school and my university was tapped by Yale Medical School, or the Yale Medical School students, to create a nutrition curriculum because the medical students knew they needed a nutrition program. And it got all the way up to the very top. And then Yale Medical at the last moment, they put the kibosh on it. Why is that? Because they know that if they start supplying medical students with understanding of nutrition, biochemistry, the human body, how it works, they're not going to be prescribing as many drugs. Again, you have to understand how the system is set up against you.
That's nuts.
Yeah. And the next one is what is the other side of what I said before: reform crop subsidies. They make corn, soybeans, and wheat artificially cheap, so these crops end up in many processed forms. Soybean oil in the 1990s became a major source of American calories, almost 32%. A high fructose corn syrup is everywhere. Our subsidy program is so backward that less than 2% of farm subsidies go to fruits and vegetables. This is my point. And this is what I always argue with the dietitians about. They're like, well, you know, you got to let people who are low income, this is the best they can afford. No, it's the best they can afford, but this is not the best we can do for them. We need to fix it from the top down and then educate them on why these processed foods are not good for them. It has to happen in both directions. I keep saying that, but it's the only way it's going to work. You can't tell people, you know, it's much better if you buy these organic foods when they only have $3.
Well, not only that, but, you know, if you want to talk about supply and demand that shows up and really can change a landscape of any kind of economy, even if we were talking about the most microcosmic economy there is, like one city block.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about what you're stocking at a bodega in Alphabet City somewhere. You know, if you live somewhere around, you know, 6th Street or whatever the hell it is, and you don't really have that much to, you know, you're just getting by. Everything is rent controlled, subsidized, this and that. And if everybody knows what they need to go and get, even if it's not the best eggs.
Right, absolutely.
If the bodega all of a sudden sees that they're not stocking Funyuns as much,
right, and
people are they're always out of eggs. They're looking more and more for eggs, especially because A, people want them, and B, because they're more incentivized on these, you know, the SNAP programs or anything else like that. I mean, just by educating people, going into a local bodega, you can. I mean, cans of tuna fish,
absolutely,
cans
Frank.
of tuna fish and eggs and whatever the fuck it is, red beans, whatever the hell you.
And you're talking free market again, right?
Yeah.
The demand dictates the supply, and I know this firsthand because the Green Organic Market, which is a wonderful little market up here in Hartsdale, where I only used to be right next door to it when I worked at the hospital, but now I only get to do it when I come up here to visit you. And I went in there today, and they know me, even from when I worked at the hospital, because I was there all the time. And they know me so well that one time I asked them to carry something. Now, this is just a store, right? And I said, hey, if you guys carried this, I would buy it. And they said, well, if you buy it, we'll carry it. And they started carrying this thing that I wanted. And it was amazing to see that, you know, you don't get that in you're not going to get that at Walmart. But you're going to get that at your local place. So if you have a local place that you shop, ask them to carry something that you know is healthy and that you want, and say, listen, I'll be in there buying it all the time, and they'll carry it. And that's, again, the perfect example of demand drives supply. So
yeah.
I love that.
I know. And it's really just a matter of knowing how resourceful you can be and how much healthier you can live by making really an incredible amount, just small changes.
Yeah.
So, for example, like you're saying, it doesn't have to be that people are living in rural areas or well-to-do areas or whatever. It's just that if you're asking for the right things,
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to be getting the best of, a beef imported from Japan.
Nope.
You just, ask for the tuna fishes, the anchovies, ask for the whatchamacallit, just grab eggs more often. Things like that. If people are looking for it more, then those who are making, they're just going to buy more of what people are buying.
Conventional meat, conventional eggs, conventional farm-raised fish. It's not my favorite, but it is light years ahead of a processed food diet. It will put you on the path to health, which could save you money in healthcare costs, which you could reinvest in upping your level of quality food. There are so many levels to being healthy. It is not elitist. It is not prohibitive if you know what you're doing. And again, I want to try to educate those people, but also, I'll say it again, help them from the top down.
It's just so great to know that this is actually on the ballot.
Frank, what I texted you, right? Like 10 minutes after RFK made that speech, when RFK uttered the words mitochondrial dysfunction, I was like, I'm in.
That's it.
I'm in.
Like the last 5 to 10 minutes of his speech that day, I said, wow, this is like Jay Gulinello has been tapped for the.
If anybody out there knows Trump or RFK, get me in a position. I will be a service to the community and try to help them figure this stuff out, because they need people who think the way I think about this, because they're clearly talking to people who understand the problem and who've spent. This 2024 is my decade anniversary of studying this stuff and of trying to figure it out. 10 years I've been doing this. So I know what I'm talking about. It's only because I've obsessed over it for 10 years. I do it 24 hours a day. You catch me on a weekend. That's what I'm doing, This next one is something you mentioned about John F. Kennedy and the physical fitness standards.
Yep.
Issue new presidential fitness standards. My uncle John F. Kennedy was right in 1960 when he wrote, "The physical vigor of our citizens is one of America's most precious resources. The physical fitness test that President Obama ditched should be reinstated." Mm-hmm. So you got nutrition, you got fixing subsidies, you've got fixing the broken pharmaceutical system, the dietary guidelines, physical fitness. I mean, God, this is everything that we're talking about. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any more that are really worth it. He talks about HSAs, which I actually opt into if you have a job and you can get a health savings account, because then you can advocate for that money to be used in a way that you want it. So I use those to be able to, pay wholesale for, or pay, I should say, full price for like labs and stuff. But, it's not a big deal when your company is also dumping money into an HSA. So if you can opt for that and it works for you, it's a fantastic way to get real care. And you can look for things like direct care models, that you might be able to use for that as well. So I love the list, Frank. I read it, I heard the speech, I was in love with it, and I agree with you. It's on the ballot, and this is like one of the first chances we have to truly vote for something that could change society apart from just the Republican, Democrat. We're going to have differences on taxes. This is like meaningful change. If it was implemented, could change everything for this country.
Yeah. I mean, because you want to talk about things that are going to impact people.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. And here's how he ends. He says, "Mr. Trump has told me he wants to make ending this chronic disease calamity a key part of his legacy, while Kamala Harris has expressed no interest in this issue. His political courage and moral clarity about the danger of our compromised institutions give us the best opportunity in our lifetimes to revive America's health." And that's the end of it. So very, very relevant to tonight and to the next 2 months.
And the juxtaposition couldn't be clearer. They're talking about mitochondrial health, and Kamala Harris is demanding that everybody on her presidential campaign be up to date with their boosters, which I think means number 10. So the choice is clear.
10 doses, and that's just incredible.
Of an experimental therapy.
My, oh my. All right. Well, let's go and jump into the intermission. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, after this wonderful intermission, I would love to read off all of your super chats. You can send in some universal super chats no matter where you're watching to quitefranklysuperchat.com, quitefranklysuperchat.com. It could be a joke. It could be a shout out. It could be some thoughts. Just lay it on us. And we're also going to open up the lines. So there's more, though. We're going to talk about swamp draining next. I have a couple of media clips over here, and it's 8:02. So within the next 45 minutes, we're going to start wrapping this one up so that I have enough time to reprogram a stream on Pilled, on quitefrankly.tv. We're going to be doing debate watch party together on Pilled, quitefrankly.tv, Rumble, DLive, and Twitter. No YouTube for that because they're taking people down for rebroadcasting, and that's just the way it is. And Rockfin, no Rockfin either. I need to be scheduling streams on as few platforms as possible. So come to quitefrankly.tv. That's always a priority. It's the easiest thing to do. There's also Rumble and DLive and Twitter. So that's where that's all going to be after we wrap up in just about 45 minutes or so. Still, little quick intermission. When we come back, your super chats and more on this.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Welcome to Intermission. Yeah, Intermission.
You are now entering, quite frankly.
Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly, guys.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
So everybody watch. Quite frankly. With Frank.
Dare you.
Second hour has begunzy. Okay, let's see. Stowstube. Stowstube says another Jay Gulinello and Frank Knight. Wonderful. Need I say more? Thank you, Frank and Jay. Thank you, Stowstube. Thank you, Christos. Hope all's well with you and your family and everybody out there.
In Massachusetts, yeah?
In Massachusetts. Jay Britt says, happy Tuesday, Frank. Always look forward to Jabez Gulinello. Or Yabez.
Try again.
Being with you. He always reminds me how poorly I'm doing on my diet.
I have that effect on people.
Keep reaching, Jay. I don't know. I just...
I'm not judgmental.
Oh, I know. He really isn't.
I mean, I can be.
He really isn't. I mean, there's a couple of nights there was one night I texted Jay. I had gotten home from the studio, and I just plopped down on the living room floor. Lauren was on the couch. I just lay down on the floor. The Yankees were on. It's like the eighth inning. I always get home in the seventh or eighth inning. It's just like a tease. It's like, what, I'm going to get 25 minutes of just relaxation. Anyway, I'm laying down there, and it goes to a commercial break, and there is a glistening, steaming pile of Taco Bell.
I knew it was the Taco Bell night. So you got that from the television.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we should outlaw direct-to-consumer advertising for Taco Bell,
Oh,
too.
it's just one of those things. It just brought me back because everything else actually disgusts me.
Yeah,
everything else, and like I'll see fast food commercials with all these new kind of, one restaurant or another that's introducing a new kind of chicken bite. It's completely drowned in this syrupy glaze that you can tell is all types of sweet and chemical, whatever. But every once in a while, I think about a cheesy gordita crunch. And I just...
That Burger King commercial, that OG Burger King commercial you paid last night with the Whopper, that looked legit. I mean, that's something you could make in your, in your house. Just lettuce, tomato, cheese, burger, bun,
I wish I can go... Can I actually... Wait. Maybe I can actually go back and find that text. Maybe... hold on, wait a second.
It was desperate sounding. And I was very
I was
kind.
having a rough night.
Yeah. And I was like, I think I said something like, if you're going to eat this late, maybe we make better choices. Taco Bell wouldn't be my first choice.
Come on.
Are you word searching Taco Bell?
No, I'm trying to find where the hell. Oh, actually, yeah, that's a
way to do it.
That's the way. Yeah, Jay Gulinello. Taco.
This isn't, by the way, the only night that I get some of these texts. But what's really cool is, and by the way, all the people that we talked about this direct care model, this is the kind of response, that we like to give people. We like to support people up to the point where, they can do it on their own, fly little bird, fly. But sometimes you need to respond to those late night texts where somebody is craving Taco Bell.
It was one of those things where I told Lauren, I said, I'm going to text Jay and I'm going to say this.
You're testing me.
We all knew.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What did I think you were going to say? All right, just this one time. Just this one time. I knew you were going to say, so it was
That's not what you pay me for.
I just didn't. To hell with it. All right, here we go. On Rumble. Rumble Rants. Jay Semo says, Bobby Parrish is great. You need to check him out for nutrition and shopping knowledge.
Bobby Parrish.
Okay. And shopping knowledge. Okay. Bobby Parrish and Jay would be a great show together. Jay, if you can... I
don't know who this is.
Jay Semo, if you can send me a link or something, I'd like to take it out. I'd like to check it out and see if I can make that happen. 925 says, ruminant animals, no glyphosates.
Yeah, so there was a study out of Canada that actually showed the milk and the meat, so the dairy and the meat from ruminant animals didn't seem to bioaccumulate glyphosate. There was a small sample size. There's only 22 samples, but that's a big deal considering wheat and corn and soy and all of those foods and chickpeas, they all accumulate. So
okay. Jay Semo said, did I forget to say great show? No, now you did. Thank you so much, my friend. Rubino says, could you show the picture of my duck eggs that I emailed you? And can Jay give some info on chicken and duck eggs? Are duck eggs better because of volume or are nutritions different? Can you give us the, I think that duck eggs, there's like 2 grams more of
they're bigger. I don't know.
It's like 8 or 9 grams of protein an egg.
Yeah.
They have like 3 times the size of the yolk and less whites.
Yes.
That's what I remember because I get a dozen duck eggs every once in a while from the Amish.
It's amazing. You can get both. Let me just see real quick. If you want to go on to the next one, I can I'm just going to see if I'm thinking of the right thing when it comes to duck. But I love changing up the eggs. Like duck eggs, quail, chicken. But there is a difference, just like liver. There's a difference between beef liver and chicken liver. There is a difference between chicken eggs and duck eggs.
Okay. Let me see here. I'm moving on to quitefrankly.tv. Captain Flint says, Red Right Hand, Peaky Blinders, fantastic show. Yes, she has not seen Peaky Blinders, my daughter. But yes, Nick Cave. First Nick Cave song I ever heard was because of Metallica. Metallica covered Loverman on their Garage Inc. remastered thing in 97, Garage Days, Garage Inc. Anyway, Doug Simmy, always a great show with Jay. Thank you, Doug. I agree.
Thank you.
C. Blanche says, amen. Delona, thank you for the cookies. Neo, thank you. No Stud All Muffins says, happy Tuesday, Frank. It's always great when Jebediah Gulinello stops by.
Wow. That's because I really like the Amish food, right?
Yes. Enjoy the debate. You too. I mean, listen.
Yeah.
Don't expect anything out of us.
No,
we're all just. It's a watch party. I may sit here with my mouth agape.
Pretend that you're with us. You're just sitting in the room. And
Yeah. I'm gonna. That's it. And also remember, there's going to be speed round calls for the commercial breaks. When you call in, you just get whatever you can in like 5 to 7 seconds. Just scream whatever you want to do. That'll be the fun part we can think about in between because it looks like it's going to be 90 minutes.
Just real quick, duck eggs, more protein, about 30% more protein, and more nutrient dense, more omega-3, vitamin A, vitamin D, choline, folate, and iron than chicken eggs. And that may be also just because of the larger yolk. But yeah, similar profile, but duck eggs are a great thing to swap in and out every once in a while.
Okay, so what's the protein?
About 30% more protein, and I think that just has to do with size.
So we're talking, what, 8-9 grams?
Yeah.
As opposed to 6, 7?
Yeah.
Because 7 grams is like a jumbo egg.
But the big one is the micronutrients, the omega-3s, the vitamin A and D, the choline, the folate, and the iron. So.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get myself. I haven't had duck eggs in a couple of months. I got to work those in again.
Ducks also lay year round compared to chickens, so seasonally they're more appropriate to eat all year round.
Okay, you hear that, everybody? Go ahead and check it. All right, and Pam D, thank you for the shades. All right, what else do we have here? Now, here's the big one. This is a post from End Tribalism in Politics on Twitter, and it's attached to a 3-minute video of RFK Jr. on the Full Send podcast talking about Donald Trump and their the swamp draining that's going on here. I'll play a little bit of it, and then I'll read the rest. Well, I mean, let's just see what happens. Take a listen.
President Trump, I think, tried to do that the last time to drain the swamp, and he was well-intentioned, but he didn't know how to do it. And he said that to me. He said, I didn't know anything about governing. And he said, we won this election, and then all of a sudden, you got to fill 60,000 jobs or something like that. And he said, I was surrounded by people, by lobbyists and business interests who were saying, you got to appoint this guy, you got to appoint that guy. And that's what he did. And, he brought in Scott Gottlieb, who was a Pfizer business partner, to run the FDA. Gottlieb did a $100 billion favor for Pfizer. And then what did he do? He went back to join Pfizer's board with all the stock, dividends that he got. Shit. So it's just a payoff. It's a revolving door payoff. And there was, they brought in a telecommunications lobbyist to run FCC. They brought in oil lobbyists, Ryan Zinke to run the Department of Interior, a coal lobbyist to run the EPA, another pharmaceutical lobbyist, Alex Azar, to run HHS. You go across the board, and all of these agencies were being run, and that's what they all do. And Trump.
I don't know about you, but since he has thrown in with Trump, I think his voice is healing.
Last time I got locked into that, and he told me, I don't want to do that again. He said those were bad guys, and this time we're going to do something different. And
think about the admission.
But you have to understand.
That's a pretty big admission.
It'd be like any of us going into government. What the hell do we know about how the world works? And then you have to trust some people. And Trump trusted the wrong people. He trusted the Republican Party. But again, that just shows you Trump's not a Republican. He trusted these people to put him in positions. I mean, John Bolton, these people, the Bush people. I mean...
If he expressed these thoughts a little bit more in public,
I agree,
they would go a very, very long way.
I'm sure there's an ego element to that too. You don't want to admit that you were had. You won this election to the highest office in the land.
It's war.
I know, brother. I know.
It's that would be like apologizing that you did not win every battle in a war.
I know. Humility goes a long way, I think, and I think the American people respond to that too. But like I said to you before, I think maybe to some degree, having this 4 years of whatever we have, I don't even want to say a Biden administration. I don't know what it is. I think this would make a second Trump term better than if the second Trump term had happened from 2020 to 2024. Because to some degree, he needed to know this. And then all the backstabbing and the lawfare. And think about how many more snakes have revealed themselves. I mean, again, we were talking offline. The Cheneys. Good God, you want to make this a positive thing? That if I was running the Kamala Harris campaign, I would say, no, thank you. For the Cheney endorsement, no thank you, warmonger. No, we have a bad enough reputation as being warmongers now that Trump had 4 years of relative peace. Dick Cheney?
Dude,
really?
Let me just say, I understand. I know that we're dealing, when it comes to the average leftist, I know that we're dealing with immoral nut jobs that are completely detached. But it still shocked me to see so many people who were not only excited by someone like Dick Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris, but some even went as far as calling it something's happening here. There's a complete political the complete political realignment, they said. And when I read that, the political realignment crowd based on the Cheney endorsement, I can't even begin to imagine being so completely blinded by propaganda and hate that you find yourself on the same side as Dick Cheney, and you think that you're the lesser of two evils. And what makes it even more laughable state of affairs is that state of mind is based on the premise that Dick Cheney is a conservative, that it's a political realignment. That I guess they thought I guess what they think about is when you think about just how shallow the average American it really thinks about politics. When they think about conservative, they think evil. I think that's how it's been branded. And so Dick Cheney, for many people, would be considered ultra-conservative because he was super evil.
Right.
Yep. And so when they see political realignment, that even Dick Cheney had come back from the dark side to join them. When it's just he's with his partners in crime. They're trying like hell to preserve what they've built.
Trump really did an amazing thing for all of us. The visceral hatred that people have for him. Now, I don't have anything for him. Like I respect what he's done for the country. I don't love or hate him. But the visceral hatred that people have for him they had to focus so much on that it seems like the mask has slipped. They've really just truly revealed who they really are. So this whole, when they call it a bipartisan thing, right? Now that's code word for uniparty. That's the thing you don't want. Bipartisanship in this environment is a terrible thing. Bipartisanship in the 60s and 70s may have been a whole different animal, but it's not anymore. I was just waiting for, like I said, George W. Bush to hop on board because that would have just solidified everything for me, right? Like George W. Bush was a terrible president. Dick Cheney is a terrible person. The fact that they're supporting Kamala Harris should tell you that this is the same party. Find me the differences in policy between Obama and Bush. You won't be able to. There was barely any difference. But now, the irony is that the political realignment is happening right under their nose. They just have no idea what it is.
And they don't know where they just don't know where their placement on the board.
It's incredible.
It's an alignment. It's just clueless.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's chuckle worthy, and other times it's
sad
we gotta live around these people, and if this is if this is how twisted the basic understanding of what's going on just on in the everyday bold and the beautiful timeline of American politics, if this is their understanding of the basics, you can't introduce any deep concepts to them.
No, nuance is lost. All nuance is lost.
Dude, that's why whenever I get together for a party or a holiday, I just pray things stay focused on sports. Let's talk about sports. Let's talk about family jokes and history, memory. Yeah. Please don't bring anything up. Because please.
No, I mean, we all have that in, people in my family who, quote unquote, love Kamala Harris. And like, really, I wonder if a year ago when the news media was telling you that Joe Biden needed to replace Kamala Harris because she was a drag on the ticket, I'm sure you were like, yeah, we got to replace. Yeah, like, I think you said this before. It's like plug and play people. Like they just receive their new instructions and they're like, Kamala Harris. And I'll tell you right now, I thought about this the other day. If Kamala Harris, if Air Force 2 happened to be a Boeing, and something happened and we had a new candidate, they would all be like, oh, I knew this was the person all along. It doesn't matter who it is. And that's the dangers of tribalism, right? Like this I belong to this thing. And you're going to do yourself a favor if you really don't belong to any of those groups. You can make much more efficient decisions if you don't saddle yourself with this label. I'm a Democrat. What the hell does that even mean anymore?
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
I mean, and literally means nothing, because when you see these people like Nick Shirley will show up outside of the convention hall over there in Chicago and ask people what they like, whether they're celebrities or whether they're just anybody off the street, working class person showing up with their newly pressed Harris shirt. What do you like about the Harris campaign, the platform? They don't have anything.
Nothing.
So what does anything mean? Yeah. Nothing. It's just almost like ringing the bell.
It's like sports, but it's a much more dangerous version of sports, because at the end of the day, sports is relatively meaningless in terms of its impact. But this is very serious. And again, we have this beautiful opportunity to, create, and you're not just electing Donald Trump, you're electing now potentially a whole group of people who actually will support him this time in endeavors that matter. And it's just, and the difference is so stark that I just hope that people can realize that and pull themselves out of that tribalistic nature and do the right thing. Because I don't think there really is a choice.
The rest of what he said over here is, another pharmaceutical lobbyist, Alex Azar, was picked to run HHS. See, these are all the things right here. The FCC. They brought in oil lobbyist Ryan Zinke to run the Department of the Interior. Azar at HHS, the Pfizer guy with the FDA and all that. These are some of the greatest things that people who are digging into Trump. You know, it was hard for everybody to really criticize him over the 4 years that he was in office with any kind of effectiveness because efficiency, I should say, because he was being attacked in such petty, vicious ways and trying to be hamstrung that you almost like every day was a new scandal that you had to unpack from people who just wanted him out and the people who wanted him to get better. It never, there's no chance to even talk about that because these were bad appointments. I had one thing I was asking here. It had to be in my notes last night, and I'm going to ask this of Roger Stone when he comes back on with Jeremy Ryan Slate on October 28th. I'll announce that again tomorrow, October 28th. So we're going to have him really, really close. But I've had these conversations with friends about Trump and Nixon, for example. And it was posed to me. They offered a critique. And I thought it'd be a great question for Roger. I said, why does Trump, like Nixon, seek the approval of people who hate them? Whether it's granting interviews to journalists who are going to trash them, endorsing rhinos, getting backstabbed by all these, corporate appointees along the way, company men that are not loyal to anything other than continuing the, carrying water, continuing and advancing their careers and all that shit. I mean, they're never going to accept him. So do you ever see a day where Trump, Nixon's already dead, where Trump lets go? And then we have all this come out from RFK. And hey, listen, as somebody in the comments of this one video said, let me see, believing it here, Nan said this. I don't know who it is, but it's a very simple point. Believing this or not is not even relevant at this point. It's literally our only hope.
Without a doubt. And
it's just, it may just crash into the sea and nothing ever comes of it if he even wins or is allowed to win, I should say. But
I'm just seeing a different, even just that admission from Trump. I don't think his ego would have let him admit some of those things. So again, I just see I see some differences now that I didn't see even in 2020 after 4 years of being in the midst of all that. So I do have hope that that if he surrounds himself with better people, that the genuineness of what he wants for his legacy and for the country, may come to pass. But you're right. It doesn't even matter whether we believe it or not. What's the alternative? There is no alternative.
The biggest kick to the gut would be if Donald Trump wins, they start getting their work in, and somewhere like around 7 or 8 months into the administration, RFK quits because he doesn't see things going in the right direction. And
I don't see RFK as a quitter. I would see him pushing harder and harder.
I would hope he would.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that this is the this could be.
Yeah.
Like I said, whatever. There's only one die to roll.
Yeah.
If you're going to roll at all.
Yep.
But if this guy is around, perhaps he's that check against the giving in and the trusting of people who never had their back. But I still just don't understand how Trump can go into that situation and not know that all knives were out. And but it's incredible to hear this kind of to hear this. He said he asked me to help him do that. So if we do that, if he does what he says, I'm very optimistic that this can actually remediate a lot of the corruption. And then the question is, do you think Trump RFK could actually drain the D.C. swamp?
I mean, the question is, and Trump has said this, in this run-up to the election, that he didn't even know how deep the swamp was. Nobody could know until you were in it. So I just see some changes, and I do think that RFK would be the kind of person that would continue on that path. I mean, he has a singular focus, and I don't think, it's like when people tell you, just get off of YouTube. It's not worth it. Well, yeah, well, That's where people are that need convincing. And I'm going to have to be, I think Matt Christensen said when he was being interviewed by Viva the other day, they're going to have to cut my head off. I'm not going to leave. I've spent 10 years building something there. Same kind of thing. RFK has built this, he's built up to this point where now he has a legitimate chance, although not as the president, but some major position to impact the kind of change that he has dreamt about for who knows how long. I don't see him giving that up without a major fight. So I don't see him resigning. The question you asked, and I think it's true, how many other people, what's the ratio of supporters of Trump, genuine supporters, and people, again, with the knives out to try to stab him in the back? I think that's going to dictate what happens.
Well, and that's the other thing here, too, with everything that has been put in his place to make sure that he never even got this far in the race, let alone had this kind of a chance. Because, Rich Barris was sending this to me before. I asked him, hey, I see tons of people scheduling broadcasts and all in the titles. It's about Kamala's numbers crashing. What's really going on over here? And he says that the NPR Marist poll shows that Joe Biden was leading Donald Trump by 9 points at this time back in 2020. It now shows that Harris with a scant 1 point lead down from the prior poll in August. And it says just more bad news for Harris, and that's and again, whose numbers and
Rich talks a lot about response bias too. You're getting at a certain time of year, you're getting, conservatives are more likely to be off with their families, and that liberals are more willing to answer polls because their hatred of Donald Trump is so severe that they just can't wait to push the buttons. I hate Trump. So there's a serious response bias there too. But and then there was a honeymoon. I mean, look, the bar, like tonight, the bar is set so low, Frank, that they now have a candidate with a pulse. So it's like, because literally they didn't have that before.
Yeah.
So the expectations, she is benefiting from massively low expectations, which is why she didn't have to put policies on her website until 48 hours ago. It's crazy. She's running for president. She hasn't done an interview without her hand holding,
Here, wait. Here's another one. Here's a 2-minute video. I just grabbed a whole bunch of stuff that are relevant tonight. Here is RFK sitting down with Vivek Ramaswamy and Tucker Carlson about Kamala Harris and the I guess the very unique moment in time that we're in.
I saw Kamala, at the convention, and she gave a speech that was very bellicose and belligerent. It was a kind of speech that was written by neocons and the CIA. The first time in history, they had a CIA former director speaking right before her, Leon Panetta. They had military people speaking at the Democratic convention. Democrats were the anti-war party. They were the pro-Constitution party. They were the party that was against Wall Street and representing the little guys, the cops, the firefighters, union and labor people. In the 2020 election, roughly 50% of the people in this country voted for Donald Trump. But that group that voted for Donald Trump represented 30% of the wealth in our country.
Wow.
The 50% of the people that voted for Joe Biden represented 70% of the wealth. There's been an inversion now where the Republican Party has become the party of the common man, of working people, of the
temporarily.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And that's your political realignment. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the way it is right now.
Yeah.
Middle class. And the Democratic Party has become the party of Wall Street, of the military-industrial complex, of big pharma, big agriculture, big tech, the big banking systems, and all of what Donald Trump calls the deep state, which is this web of financial interests that is not necessarily a little conspiracy, but it's a conspiracy of self-interest that functions together in tandem to shift wealth upward, to clamp down totalitarian controls, and to transform this country from the world's exemplary democracy into a corporate kleptocracy and a very, very oppressive oligarchical system.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
and I gotta say, this is all very dark stuff, but I'm fucking excited.
The fact that it's out on the table right now.
I'm excited that at least there's no. It's either you like what everybody say, what one person or the other is saying, and no matter how evil or how revolutionary or sobering, everything's out on the table. There's very, very little ways of all the fig leaves are gone.
Yeah.
You know, so that in itself is very refreshing to me because I just like to see, okay, you think this is good, you think the endless abortion and all, you're cool with that, you're beating your chest over that, great. Good to know who around me is an evil sick fuck. I just want to know who the sick fucks are, and it's great that we don't have to pretend anymore. That in itself. So hey, let's go for it. We've got the Haitians eating every pet in the Midwest, and there's I mean anything can happen right now, and I'm excited.
And we are in such strange times, Frank. I think I've said this maybe I even said it last time when we were watching the debate. There was a time when a presidential candidate looking at their watch during the debate was a major faux pas, and it resulted in a change in the polls. The things you have going on right now, the invasion of the country from the southern border and the northern border, for that matter, gas prices, the cost of living, the new wars that have popped up, the decrepit nature of the commander-in-chief, it doesn't seem to faze these people. And that's what tells me that they are no longer assessing the reality around them, that they are being manipulated in such a way that, like I said, I'm the same person I was when I was voting Democrat when I was younger. I just see the ground has moved underneath me. I've changed some of my views, but for the most part, like RFK, I don't see this as the party that I thought it was. You know, I see that everything has sort of changed underneath me, and I have no choice, if I'm being an honest person, but to accept that, admit that, and say, well, now I'm going to cast my vote for a Republican, but really a Republican who is Donald Trump, not a Republican. I wouldn't vote for a Cheney or a Bush. I thought George W. Bush was one of the worst presidents in my lifetime, and I still stand by that.
Yeah.
Him and Joe Biden are two peas in a pod. But yeah, I mean, you have to accept the reality that's presented. And right now, the parties at the moment, like you said, really have switched, and you have to be able to accept that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm with you. And even that is just, like I said, the switch has been very, very temporary. This is a third party. It's going to evaporate. The real question here is there a win that can be snatched from the jaws of defeat that can then create momentum to, I don't know, because like I said before, everything that has been put in the way of this being here, like, for example, you and I got together in June for that debate. 2 weeks later, the assassination attempt, and then 7 days after that, another White House coup. The guy, you would think that the coup, it would have been a lot more believable if it's just like, you know what, we saw him at the debate, this is really bad, 25th Amendment, I'm sorry, Joe, but you have to go. He's still the president. Yeah. And people, you know, he's obviously the punchline of many a joke right now, but it's they managed to just kind of like, okay, keep him in the background, let him show up at one of his play school desks on those, there's like,
on the set of the White House.
Yeah, the set. The set of the White House is like it's ridiculous to see the settings that they have him make appearances in while all this is going on. I was talking with Jeremy Ryan Slate last night about the figure of Gerald Ford and how Gerald Ford even commented on how the first female president would come to be.
Yeah, I remember that.
It would be the first vice president or something like that, and that the male president would die or something would happen and she would come on in, and that is how the glass ceiling would be broken. And I asked myself, I mean, it's September. It's the beginning of September.
I know where you're going.
Why wouldn't they inaugurate, even if it's after Election Day, just to say that we had that president? How dramatic would it be for Joe Biden to resign in November, like around Thanksgiving, and she gets sworn in, she's president for a month, or I don't know.
If she loses, I could see them doing that. But here's because a lot of people have been asking this question, but to me, this works against her because she's trying to distance herself right now from Joe Biden because Joe Biden is incredibly unpopular, despite the fact that he was the most popular president of all time, of course, 81 million Americans, So it would work again. I believe it would work against her to take the reins, because then that would cement her as part of this administration. Tonight it'll be really interesting to see how much he even mentions Joe Biden. I believe Trump will bring up Joe Biden more than Kamala Harris will, which is interesting because on one hand you have the pundits saying everything is great, everything is fantastic. She's done a great job with Joe Biden. He's been fantastic, but also she's the agent of change. Well, why do you want to change if things are so great? I mean, these are the circles that they run in. But my thought on that is she wouldn't want to do that because it would cement her legacy with Joe Biden. And I think right now for the election, that's not a good thing because Joe Biden was sinking in the polls.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see. We're like 20 minutes away from that. So we're going to do about 10 or 12 more minutes over here. Actually, let's take a quick break. When we come back, your calls for about 10 minutes. Call in 914-200-0269. Because it hasn't been a traditional health topic night with Jay, we haven't been inundated with people asking questions about red yeast rice and anything else.
Why do you want to lower your cholesterol?
Yeah. That's another thing though. We have to get another just night in on meat, salt, and cholesterol, because it's one of those things where I've talked to you enough and we've done enough on this show where I know what my choices are. And my mind has been changed on a number of things, but my recall is still not very good. And I think a lot of people feel that way. They read enough, they listen enough, things start making sense, and it fits into a larger worldview that's a lot more logically satisfying. Yeah. But when you encounter normies out there who still think that if you take a lick of salt, your blood pressure is your head's gonna split apart. Or cholesterol, I got to bring my cholesterol down and.
I'm doing a full presentation at the retreat on cholesterol, so you're going to love it. And we'll talk about it. I mean, there was actually just a paper published a few weeks ago. I think I did it as a Health Minute, where they took these two groups of people and one was on a healthy group of people that were on a ketogenic style diet that had a massive increase in LDL, which is supposedly the bad cholesterol. It's not, but that's what they call it. And they followed them for 5 years. And basically the theory is that the cholesterol should contribute to plaque burden. That's the idea, that cholesterol just clogs up those arteries, right? Like it's a drain. In fact, they used to have a commercial just like that. Yeah. Well, they followed them up for 5 years. And even the people with sky-high LDL compared to people who had considered normal LDL, there was no difference in plaque burden. And LDL wasn't even associated with plaque buildup in either cohort. So this is another huge nail in the coffin of LDL, which is low-density lipoprotein, being causative in atherosclerosis. The study was just published. It's amazing because the people now don't know what to do because, plaque is supposed, they'll say, it's only 5 years. Okay, that's a pretty friggin' long human study. Most of the studies that aim at cholesterol are really just associative. They're not even interventional studies. So this is a big deal.
We need to have a definitive crash course in all this for people like me to listen and re-listen until you just understood.
Yeah.
At least the mechanics of it all.
It feels like a great fall, winter thing, like a Thanksgiving thing would be a great
meat, salt, butter.
That's on my Thanksgiving list.
All right.
So
that's it. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll be right back. Call the show. We have a couple minutes left. Let's fill it up with your calls.
So, how do you like the food here at Campo? Good stuff. Wait till I finish asking you the question. Just say, I love the food. I love the food. Okay, good. Here we go. So, Josh, how do you like the food?
Oh, by the way, this is... These are clips from last year's health retreat.
I told you these were private, Frank.
These are clips from last year's health retreat. So if you want to take the plunge in 2025, just know what you're in for.
That's me in the purple jumpsuit.
We'll be right back.
So, how do you like the food here at Campo? Good stuff. Wait till I finish asking you the question. Just say, I love the food. I love the food. Okay, good. Here we go. So, Josh, how do you like the food here at Campo? I love the food. Wait till I finish the question. Damn it.
Tony? Hi, how'd it go?
What does it take to get some fucking smoked turkey in this house, huh?
What?
I bust my ass all day long. When I come home, I want a little smoked turkey. Is that too fucking much to ask?
What the fuck is your problem?
Everything but fucking turkey in here.
I don't enjoy this part of the job, but it's vital to the success of the Perkins system that we remove all temptation from your lives. Looks like my man's packing. Drop back, son. Who would like to own up to this treasure trove? Whose wonderful candies are these? Oh, look! A deli meat.
Okay. Let's take a call. 631, you're on the air. How you doing?
Oh, hi. How are you? I'm so glad to hear your voice. One of the best shows I've seen. I watch all of yours.
Oh, well, I'm
I
so happy.
Oh, yeah.
Who are we talking to?
This is Cam. I've called before.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's all
I'm
yours.
Going to be... okay. Well, first of all, I love the natural medicine that you were talking about. I'm a nurse for over 40 years, and I think diet and nutrition are key.
Good for you.
The meds that are prescribed, doctors get kickbacks for everyone they prescribe and get vacations and everything like that, which sickens me. But I also love that you're talking about RFK and Trump, and that unusual pairing I think is going to be great. So I really just enjoyed your show tonight very much. Good topics.
I'm glad that we were able to do that, because the alternative was what kind of, and everybody knows that there's going to be a big spectacle that starts in about 15 minutes. We're going to be live for another 5, so I have 10 minutes to set up a new stream, which, hey, watch it with us. We're going to be it's just going to be a big watch party. So, but
I'll be watching.
What do we do? I felt like this was a really great way of doing a little bit of debate prep, because
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. Everything you talked about was so relevant in my life, because I am a nurse still working out there, and I see everything going on. I see the doctors. I see what they're doing. I see what the hospitals are doing. I see the medications people don't even need. All they need is some potassium or something. Maybe,
Cam, so you're still working in the industry, huh?
Yes, I am.
Well, so when I worked at a hospital, my population that I took care of were the nurses at the hospital, and I know how difficult it must be for someone who believes what you believe to see what you see. So I just want to thank you for doing what you do for the public, because it's a tough job when you know the truth and you don't have all the power in the world to be able to do something about it.
Oh, I argued with the doctors so many times. They said, why does this patient who's 87 need 13 medications?
Good for you.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And I said, you got to cut these back. First of all, but then I'll miss my vacation to the Bahamas. Excuse me, this is a life.
Yeah.
I really think, and I will say, there are some new doctors out there who are thinking very brilliantly and very kindly, and they are changing their minds.
I'm happy to hear that.
I applaud them.
Yeah,
I applaud them with all my heart.
That's good to hear, Kim. Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot.
It's so true. Nutrition and what you're saying, all the additives, it's so true.
Well, then you got to start petitioning for some better hospital food out there, because man.
Oh my God, it's horrible what they're feeding these people.
Yeah.
And that's a whole.
That's a whole other story
for me.
I know.
But I really did love your RFK and Trump get together.
Well, thank you.
I do think RFK's voice did improve. I think the more he talks, the more he's going to talk.
I don't know what it is. It seems, and thank you so much, Cal. It seems so much that there is a. It seems so much that there. I don't know. That's it. It's a big subject. Like I said before, the numerical value of having this 5 to 6 point swing go toward one candidate's direction, Trump's direction. This kind of locking arms and saying, okay, well, hey, the world is hanging in the balance, and let's just whatever. That is the big story on the surface, but the bigger contribution to the platform of what the plan could be can be so beneficial to humanity on a human level that if there really is a chance at success there in any way, shape, or form, then that's something that we got to just
man, I got to say, I'm you and I both, I know we've talked about this on the show before. We both voted for Obama in 2008, and that feeling that I had back then, because he was such a smooth talker, I was very excited, probably more excited in that election than I had been in a long time. I'm getting that excited about this because of this combination, because it really tells me something about the way Trump is thinking differently. So I'm excited like you. I think we have a chance to do something here, and I hope that we can peel away just a few of those people who are just programmed to vote D. They just start to think differently, because we really do have an opportunity.
Well, as far as willingness to admit where he's wrong, I don't know any other interview session. Obviously, he's a lot more willing to let his hair down, so to speak, with someone like RFK behind the scenes, and you really think about what it came to, what this all came to. I know I said we're going to take calls. It's already 8:50. We only got one in there. That might be all the ones.
It was a great one.
I know it was a great call, but it was also the last time you were on, it was that time that we talked about how interesting the partnership between these two would have been. And here we are, but I think it's cool for whatever it's worth, because of how this literally needed to be forged by fire.
Yeah.
The lawfare that both of them went through state by state with ballot access, or just general attempts to jail one or the other, like Trump, which is still ongoing.
Yeah.
And then both having their security details messed with, the assassination attempt, which RFK is no stranger to.
Nope.
All the male figures in his life were taken away because of this shit. And then you have the DNC candidate swaps and all that stuff. If it weren't for all of that, if things were just a little less insane, this partnership wouldn't be an obvious necessity.
No.
So that's also where I get a little bit of excitement about this, even though I know, I understand how cheap this all seems, but
no, but I think it also tells you the dire straits that we're in.
Yeah.
Like, necessity is the mother of invention, right? Like, you're right. Had we not gotten to this place, which is maybe, whatever you believe in fate or destiny, maybe we wouldn't be here with this opportunity had we not gotten so off track at one point. I mean, I would certainly much rather have had us on track all along, but the fact is we're not. So this may be a chance to correct course. And like you said, who would you rather have? RFK, running the sort of, I don't know exactly what position he would be in, but you've got people like Scott Gottlieb looking out for the health of Americans, or RFK, like you said, who has had run-ins with the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, since 1963.
The big thing there too is that Bobby over there named the names.
Yes, he did.
The fact that the names, and these are now, according to him, admitted mistakes. Yeah. I'd like to hear a little bit more of that.
I would too.
I really would. I mean, there's no way that Trump has not heard directly from RFK now about what warp speed really cost people.
Yeah.
There's no way that how could they have talked about all of this stuff and RFK had not told, no, you have to listen to what warp speed cost people. There has to be something else there.
I agree. And it wasn't a one-off, because Trump has been using Make America Healthy Again at his rallies. I've been seeing clips of it. So it's not like that was just a one-off to get the votes. He is talking about this even when RFK isn't standing right behind him, and the responses that he's getting from the crowd. This reminds me of that poll that Rich Barris did with Robert Barnes about food freedom, and how Rich Barris was so surprised at how highly that polled, because that's a universal concept. People wanting their food to be healthy and the right to choose the food they want to consume. So, I mean, this is not just a political marriage. It seems like Trump is really taking to this on a personal level, and I think that's a good sign for things to come.
I hope that it becomes a lot more public, though, because people need to hear it. Yeah. They can't hear it secondhand from a conversation, a candid conversation he had with RFK, because this has been one of the main criticisms, that he's flaked off a lot of support over the last few years, and that would go a long way, especially if he's looking at this as boisterous and as big of a showman and a carnival barker he can be at times. At almost 80 years old, you need to look at this as your swan song.
Of course.
What the hell are you? You have to look at this as your swan song. Why not? And this is where the danger is going to be greatest, because all the obstacles that both of these men so far have gotten past, and they have forged a different path forward that is still causing a problem. If they actually are able to start putting any of this plan into place, that has gotten far greater people killed.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Far more consequential people killed in history. So they got to get ready because this is a swan song. And we all got to get ready.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway,
yeah, we got 54 days left. I don't think it's going to get any smoother. From
well,
here
we
on
only got
in.
a couple of seconds left. So let me just say, Stephen Ellis. My cousin name is Gerald. He grew up being called Jerry. Now he goes by Jay. So Gerald is my guess for Jay. And then 925 Wild G says Giuseppe.
Oh.
Okay, so that's enough of that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Homegoy says RFK was a vaccine czar in the first Trump term. Yeah, he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That didn't come through. With everything that's being done right now, I don't think there's going to be no reneging. No. I don't think that there would be, unless they're not allowed in. Pam D, thank you. And Robert Sarnes, I'm releasing the scratching on quitefrankly.tv, pill.net. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be on Rumble, quitefrankly.tv, Twitter, DLive. We'll see you there in a couple of minutes. I will talk to you soon. What the hell is this? Play something. Okay, there.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite Frankly is filmed before a live studio audience, and now our super chatters, starting with Stostube and Jay Brits. Thank you guys and gals so much. Thank you all to the Rumble Ranters and the Gold Pillars. We'll be back in a flash. Don't go anywhere.
Will you shut up?
Meow.